Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode. Here we go. Welcome to another episode of San Joaquin County Office of Education Facebook group. This is our UDL live chat. So with me today is my friend Angel Weber, and Angel is a coordinator here at Continuous Improvement and Support. And if you don't remember who I am, that's okay. My name is Fred Cochran. So it's good to see you and welcome. Um, we know it's been a month since our last UDL live stream, and we're going to continue these monthly so that we can connect you with latest resources on UDL. And we're also here to answer any questions or things that you may want to share about Universal Design for Learning. So today's live stream is recorded, and you'll be able to either, if you're not able to watch us live, we understand. But you can at least, if you can view us and give us some comments and likes, we appreciate that so that we know that we're making connections to all of you out there. So the purpose behind UDL live streaming is to offer another way of providing connections to you and UDL in your classroom or in your school district. And we know that time is, um, it's just, there's not a lot of time.
Never enough time.
There's not enough time to do anything anymore. So the thing is that we just have to be really conscious of that and be respectful of your time. We know how valuable it is, and you have lives. It isn't all just in your classroom. You have lives outside the classroom. So if you're with us today, we really do appreciate you taking the time to connect with us. And if you haven't done so already, please look at the postings I did earlier today. Because we're not going to do a screen share because we're just being sure that our technology is going to work here, right?
So yeah.
It'd be my luck to do a screen share and then stop the screen share and say, "Okay, I'll see you later," right? So anyway, that's why we're not doing that. But that's why I put all the postings in. So if you, I'll go over what is posted today. But I want to introduce Angel because Angel has a great background in education. She's joined our team in July, and we're just blessed to have her with us because she understands Universal Design for Learning, and she understands that in order to really provide true, strong Tier 1 instruction, UDL is really the way to do that. So I'm going to let her talk for a few minutes, and we'll go from there.
All right. So my name's Angel Weber, and I have been in education for 26 years, most of which was in special ed. So I think my special brain lends itself to UDL framework because it, as a special ed teacher, I think I just struggled a lot of times to try and figure out how to remove barriers and create better access points so that kids could be more included. One of my passions when I was in the classroom was just trying to make sure that kids were a part of as much as they could be a part of, and helping teachers to understand that they could make adjustments within their lessons, within their environment in their classrooms to not only allow kids to access the information, but to allow them to feel comfortable in the classroom. And so I just got my framework in June, and at the very end of June, and ever since I have seen this beautiful piece of paper, it it just has reframed kind of just how I look at kind of everything, not just in education, but it really just makes me realize how important these three learning pathways are in all that I do as an adult learner, and then how important access is for everybody, no matter where you are. So I love UDL because it just, I think, creates better community, better learners. It reminds us that we are all learners, that nobody is ever done learning. whether you're in a classroom. This for me is personal a little bit because I was sharing with Fred. My dad has had some significant health concerns with his knee and wheelchair access, and so my whole lens about obstacles and barriers and access is it's very different now, and especially when it's for somebody that you care about. So I know many of you have family, you have friends, you have children, you have students in your classrooms that this framework can help them and can help shift minds to it not being so much about what's wrong with him or her, or how do I get them out of my room so that there's somebody else's responsibility. How can we all just make that learning environment so welcoming and interactive and maximum. So anyhow, that's my love story with UDL. It's kind of my love story with UDL. Warm and fuzzy.
Warm and fuzzy. But you know what you said that really resonates with me is UDL doesn't just exist in the classroom. UDL's in our daily lives. You can go through the 9 guidelines and the checkpoints, and you can make a connection to life basically throughout the situations that we face, the obstacles we incur or we're faced with, barriers that get in the way, distractions, disruptions. All those things do happen in our daily lives, and brings me. Why I wanted to mention this is because I did my second podcast.
I was going to ask about the podcast.
Yeah, I finally got another podcast out.
Very good.
And it's of course my first one was the Welcome to the UDL Diner, but my second podcast was UDL and a visit. It's called A Visit to the Sandwich Shop. So it's all about how going to a sandwich shop and how we are welcomed there, as a customer, whereas a customer could be a student, right?
Right.
When you think about different platforms there, and then what it's like to have choice and the feeling that you have with choice, how the menu is displayed. Is it translated so I can understand it in my language, right? Are there visuals that help me understand what the item actually is? So that's perception, right? So when you're looking at the guidelines and you're looking at offering ways of customizing the display of information, well, when we go as consumers to a store, that's what it's all about, right? We're enhanced or intrigued or want something based on how it's marketed to us. And education can be pretty much the same way.
I love that analogy, Fred, because as a customer, if I'm going through the sandwich line, I want to make it the way I want it. But it's amazing how many times I've been a customer and I feel bad for making that person take something off of my sandwich or put something extra on that sandwich. And that's all about that, that customer service and that relationship. There's been moments where that person is have it your way, and then there's been other moments where it's like, oh my gosh, you expect me to take it off, even though yeah, that's your job. But
well, that's the way it was
ordered.
It's a good
analogy.
Right? Yeah, but it definitely you have a choice when you go and you need to grab something to eat. You either have that time in order to wait in line to get that, or you have an option to maybe order it online, so that speeds things up. So you're using technology to assist you, right?
Right.
So then if you have a language barrier, I could sit down next to you and say, I don't understand what this is. Can you explain that? And I say, oh, now I get it. So I'm going to go ahead and order that. I'm ready to go. So that is another way of optimizing access using tools. So every day we see that in our daily lives. Hey, guess who just came in the room? Another one of my good friends, Deanie Coleman. And Deanie's going to introduce herself and chat about UDL and her experiences with you.
Hi.
Hi there, Deanie.
Okay, my experiences with UDL. Oh, my background first. Okay, so my background is I was a general education teacher in middle school, and after my middle school journey was over, I moved over to special education, and I was a an RSP teacher for kindergarten through fourth grade. And then I became a program specialist in the special education world, and now my new job is an inclusion coordinator with SJCOE, where I get to support inclusive practices, which I'm very excited about. And what I've quickly learned is that UDL is one of those inclusive practices that we need to be implementing to support our students. Yeah, that's kind of where I've come from, and I'm a huge advocate. Like Fred, I was sharing earlier about how I am applying this to my life outside of the classroom, and not just in the classroom
Right.
kind of thing. So
Yeah. Yeah, even just empowering the adult and knowing that
move
this
this back
is
so we can
that we can see. Just kind of empowering,
I
kind
don't
of
have to be
come
in
and
it.
cuddle in everybody.
Cuddle it.
But just kind of thinking about how empowering the adult learning and knowing how that makes sense, makes it a little easier to transfer that into how we work with our students. So here you see me over here, right? Anyway, another thing I want to share about Dini coming to our team is that I had started getting involved with preschool and UDL and done quite a few trainings with different school districts. And uh, Dini and I have joined forces to blend UDL and inclusive practices together because um, there's a there's a need out there where we need to start universal design for learning at the earliest ages, and really helping parents understand how to do that at home too with their own children can really be a benefit. The thing is that we start with preschool, but we have to continue it all the way
Yes.
through K-12. And that is where that's where we're talking to you, or why we're talking to you about this, because we know it's a big responsibility, but we know that you love your students and you want them to do have access and do the best they can, but we really need to really uh, you know promote this with everyone we work with so that all kids have access. It isn't just a couple of teachers do this and a couple of teachers don't, right? So
I have a
okay.
quote on my wall, and I'm not sure who I'm quoting here, but it says that early segregation ensures later segregation. So if students are starting out in segregated programs in preschool, then chances are they're going to be segregated as they move into to elementary school. So that's why it's so important to hit those early ECE teachers, and they're very responsive.
They really are. And if you've ever visited an early childhood classroom, you can really get immediate I mean, right. I mean, immediately you see the challenges that can appear because we have students. We talk about learner variability, and we talk about our students that their variability is a norm. Well, it's that way from the get-go, right? Our kids all are different. They're different learners. They're different. They need different resources, or they need different ways to provide access because we don't all learn the same way, right? So it's not a one size fits all approach, as we say in most of our trainings. That are, to think about variability is the norm, is a good place to start, because then you really start to think about how do I address the learning for all kids, not just the kids that we consider meeting the average. we want to get away from that. Hey, Deanie, do you want to talk about the video we played this afternoon with Shelley Moore? What a great video that
it was
was.
a
We were
great
with the
video.
school district that we're supporting UDL, and we really talked about how special education kind of started as a medical model,
It
right?
did, yeah, and it was, and as far as a medical model, I guess the the way to put it is kind of a deficit model in that IEPs are written to address deficits or that there's something wrong with students that we need to fix. And Shelley addressed the fact that we need to kind of shift our mindset on that and move to a more strengths based model, which she called a social model of developing IEPs. Which is more that we're fixing the environment that the student's in and providing supports for all students instead of trying to fix one student and that there's something wrong with the student, because really there's something wrong with the environment that they're in. And she talked a lot about context, and that she gave the example of her going to another country, and in that country she went to Hong Kong, and when she went to Hong Kong she needed a lot of support because she didn't understand the language. She wasn't able to read the signs. She wasn't able to drive because she didn't have a driver's license there, and so she needed supports. And they anticipated that she would need those supports and provided them for her. But then she talked about when she comes to the United States, she's from Canada. When she comes to the United States, she doesn't need those supports. She's able to do things on her own without those supports. And it's the same for our students. When they go into different classrooms and different learning environments, they may need different types of supports, and we need to anticipate that and provide it for them.
Yeah.
I was thinking,
I love how she said, I'm the same person, whether I'm in Hong Kong or the United States. Like,
yeah.
and it was a good reminder. Like, our kids don't change based on the teacher they go to. Their learning variability might, but,
Yeah.
we're all the same person.
Right.
I was thinking math class is Hong Kong for me. I need
Algebra
a
too.
lot of support there. But
Yeah.
other classes it's really easy. So our students are the same way, and they need different supports in their different learning environments.
Right. So thinking about the language and symbols, which is under the guideline of, or under the principle of representation. So thinking about clarifying vocabulary and symbols, right? When you're in a foreign country and it isn't really maybe, it's not going to address Western folks, that are coming in. But usually there are interpreters there that can kind of help. But thinking about that and how do we make some meaning of something that is so foreign to us, basically, in other words, so are there other ways to illustrate meaning, maybe through multiple media? And so when maybe a video is being played and maybe it's in Mandarin, but it may be able to have closed caption in English so that we can follow along with what's happening, right? So that's something that can happen in our everyday lives that help us navigate. But think about our students, especially our English learners, who do have challenges navigating such a real fast pace of instruction sometimes, and without having a way of using maybe different forms of media to support them, it can just go, right over their heads, and then they're lost, right? So
It's interesting, 2 points that come to mind for me. One is closed captioning, and how it seems like such a universal thing. And my brother-in-law is deaf, so whenever we have a family gathering, the TV is on with closed captioning. And that has always just kind of been, like, yeah, because he wants to watch TV and the news and all of that too.
right.
But this weekend I was trying to catch the Notre Dame game, and the sound was off. And I was like, can we just get closed captioning on? Because I really want to know what's going on. I want to hear what the commentators are saying. And I had to ask the lady to do it, and she didn't know how to do it.
Oh.
And so it was like a major, I'm really glad I helped her figure that out, because not only do Notre Dame fans want to see it, but I'm sure any of the hearing impaired people, or if you just couldn't hear the volume, or, you just, there's a lot of reasons why closed captioning is a great way to provide access. But I was really struck by the fact that she didn't know how, and I've been there where I didn't know how to work the technology to provide that access
Right.
point. So,
Yes.
it's just, I think there's just these small moments, and I can't remember the second place it took me, but.
Well, no, but just learning that not everybody knows how to manipulate the remote, and to be able to find, well, where is that closed caption? I use closed caption all the time, um, especially because sometimes people speak so fast, or I just go, wait a minute, did he really say or she say that? I really, and I really appreciate being able to do that, because not everybody always speaks clearly. There could be other distractions in the way.
Mm-hmm.
There could be other noise in the room that keeps me from actually hearing what's going on, even though I can hear. But still, being have that support is really helpful, because you never know when you're going to need it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the those supports can reach the broadest range of users,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where it may be intended for mostly for folks that that may be hearing impaired, like your brother-in-law,
Mm-hmm.
might be hearing impaired, but yet it benefits more than just people that have a hearing impairment, right?
Right.
So it's really important to really see how these things can, or how supports that are accessibility supports can really make a difference in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
And I remember the second place it took me. Sorry, it took me a minute, but
That's okay.
it,
That's
it,
what.
it made me think about a story that I just learned about my grandmother who spoke Spanish. She's from Mexico,
Oh.
and when she went to go visit my parents when they were young, everyone was just like, "Does she speak English?" And they said no, and so they pretended like she didn't understand any of this English. And my mom's friend just kind of came to her and like screaming at her, thinking that if she spoke louder she would understand the language. And so I just think it's, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah,
that
I
was
love that
40 years ago, 40, 50 years ago. And I think I have caught myself trying to speak louder when it's really a representation issue, not an auditory issue. It's really
Right.
a language and expression issue.
Yeah.
And I mean, they did a lot of charade. We do a lot of charades, and that helps. But it's really not about how loud you're speaking. It's about different ways to present that information.
Right.
So,
You think
I
of
don't know.
comprehensible input, and how that supports our English learners, but it also supports us too. I'm a real gesture guy. I talk with my hands all the time, but it helps me and you know, just communicate better.
Yep.
Some people don't need it, but some people do. So.
It was a funny story because I guess this lady was just like over the top, like, "Can you hear me? Do you understand?" And then my grandma was in on the joke because she thought it was funny, and so she just couldn't hold it in anymore. She goes, "Yes, I understand you." And the lady was like, "I did it. I taught her how to speak English." It's like, no, you didn't. You just talked louder to her. But anyhow, sorry.
No, I
Bird
love
walk
it.
there. Beg your pardon.
Love it. So,
She could have benefited from the
right,
framework.
right. Why don't we talk about some of the work we're doing right now? We are been involved in the California Coalition for Inclusive Literacy, which is a grant that CAST was awarded, and we are one of 5 county offices in the state. Us, Placer, Santa Clara, Fresno, and LACO, or LA County Office of Education, were all included in the as being like the recipients of services through this grant. So we were the first line of support, which was really great for us because our team here have become implementation specialists for UDL. So we have been, you know, I mean, it's been quite a blessing, I think, for us because we get to participate in this work and share it with our districts and counties even our county office neighbors, and able to support universal design for learning. I mean, we've taken this is kind of taking a road show here. I've done a lot of UDL throughout the state and sit on various committees, and UDL is very popular now, even though it's not new, but it's very popular in California, especially around or based on the fact that we have so many of our school districts involved in the multi-tier system of support, MTSS. We also, as a team, are certified in multi-tier systems of support, and I think it's really been a great opportunity for all of us to be able to provide the support needed throughout the state without having to go outside to another source. And we have it internally. We have all of this talent internally. Not only do we have that, but our backgrounds, I think, are important as well. I'll just speak for myself because when I was in the classroom, I was first a primary teacher. I worked in second grade for 5 years, but then I found that I really wanted to understand language acquisition. So I really worked hard at trying to find the right position and be a teacher of newcomers. So it really was like going to that foreign country, because my kids that come to me weren't born in the United States. They came from other countries and they did not speak English. Now, they may have had English in their country where they were coming from in classes, but they never actually practiced speaking English. So some students could read it, some students could understand it when I would speak, but they themselves, if you don't practice the language, you're not going to be able to speak it, right? So I feel I'm happy that I have that background. I've had taught various courses in language acquisition, and I think that kind of fits into what we all offer as a team. So Deanie and Angel's backgrounds are complement our team, so that it strengthens us, because then we know that each of us have our own kind of our own niche or specialty that we can work together on and expand UDL so it's relevant to all learners, right? Do you want to talk a little bit about your special ed background in some?
Yeah, well, I've done K-6 resource, kind of learning center style. I've done 7-8 resource. I've done 7-8 SDC. I've done some summer school county severe programs. And then my most recent was high school kind of moderate severe. I think on paper I was an SDC teacher, but I did a lot more trying to push in and then teach kind of the core self-contained classes. So I feel really fortunate that I've had the opportunity to work in a lot of different gen ed classrooms, a lot of different content areas across grade levels. And I've seen some moments of, I think what's neat is I think I've seen people doing this before we knew what it was or what it was called. I have, some great teacher friends who do a great job of anticipating barriers and understanding that variability is the norm.
Right.
And then I have some very clear memories of, teachers who had just zero tolerance for variability and zero awareness that there were barriers within their lesson and within their environment. And good people. So I that's what's, I think the crazy piece about it is that I have friends and colleagues that I really have a lot of respect for, but I think they're maybe I got some closed-minded friends in the profession that and that just speaks to the variability of it and where we all are and I say that because I was the chronic absenteeism summit, one of the biggest, loudest points I heard is that sometimes kids just need time. And I think the same is true for teachers. I think sometimes teachers just need time. And so I just hope that the conversation can start for some that might be closed-minded to it. It's not one more thing.
Right.
It's just honestly, I think just kind of shifting the mind so that you're thinking differently. And I think the big thing is I think people will feel more effective if they do that. I think they'll feel like the teacher they dreamed that they could be, and they'll see the learning that they dreamed that can happen within their room.
Right.
So so I think that's why I get so geeked on it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
One other connection I was going to make with the work that we do. So we've been in the last few years been working with the school district on UDL through the lens, or co-teaching, whichever way you want to say it, through the lens of UDL, and looking at how two teachers can make such a difference in their classroom by planning together and providing access to content through a co-teaching model where you have a gen ed teacher and a special ed teacher together, and it's not just a special ed teacher supporting special ed students.
Right.
They're supporting everyone in the classroom. Everyone's getting the support that they need. So that, I think, has been a big new learning for me with Universal Design for Learning, is looking how to intersect that with co-teaching, with that co-teaching model. Do you have anything to add, Deanie?
Well, I was thinking of some of the things that your kind of comment led me to think about. Some of the things that I was doing as a teacher that I never knew were UDL, but now that I know UDL, I go, oh, I was doing that. I didn't know I didn't know why it felt like the right thing to do, but it did, and now I understand the kind of why behind it. So it kind of all makes sense now. It comes together. And there's some other times where I go, man, I wish I would have had this or known this when I was teaching, and you know, as a support for me in planning on how to support students. Because like you, there were times when I sometimes struggled to figure out the right supports or really know what the barrier was for the student. I knew what sometimes the reaction was, but I didn't know what was causing that reaction. So I feel like it could have been a great tool.
Cool, thank you. So a couple things I want to just mention to you is that in our Facebook stream, or in our postings, I should say, I'm learning all the correct jargon and terminology. I don't know if I say everything right, but
I think you're right either way.
kind of. So a couple things I want you to be aware of when you're looking at the postings. October 11th, California UDL Network, we have our call from 3 to 4 p.m. and you can see the flyer. It's posted here, and register. And even if you are unable to attend, you'll be on our listserv so that you'll have access to the recording. We have MODOC, County Office of Ed. So if you've ever looked at the state of California, looked at where all these counties are, but MODOC is in the upper northeastern corner of California, right on the border of Oregon. And so I made friends with one of the coordinators like us in what we do here, but in their area there, and they're going to be sharing their UDL MTSS journey that they've been on, and it's quite a journey. I think it's going to be a real eye opener, because what we do or what we want to do is to be sure we include all of our school districts, counties that are smalls and littles, so that everybody has access to the same content or the same information. So so October 11, please register. I hope you can attend. And it's free, of course, and I co-facilitate the calls with Orange County Department of Education. So it's a good activity. We have a number of folks from all over. So it can be teachers, it can be soon-to-be teachers, it can be higher education, district offices, county offices, California Department of Education, so our doors are open, and we want to be sure that we are um, available to everyone. And coming up in the future will be um, more information about the California UDL Coalition, which will be structured very similarly to PBIS coalition in the state. So we are just finishing our procedures and getting ready to publish and looking for um, our backers that can help us provide UDL statewide in a very organized fashion so everybody has access. So it's pretty exciting work. I've been on the steering committee for 3 years, and it's really fun to bring uh, folks together and to really figure out what we need to do. The other thing I wanted to point out, I think I already mentioned it earlier, I did my second podcast that's located on the postings, as well as I just did another mini module that I added to the Padlet. It is UDL and social emotional learning. It's a crosswalk between the CASEL competencies and the UDL guidelines. And I give credit to Katie Novak because her work, basically I took her work and gave her, kind of did a shout out to her, but did the session around that. It's only a 15-minute recording, and please let me know how it goes, and let me know if you like it. We're trying to do these little chunks so that we're respectful of your time, because we know that we don't often have time to sit through a lot of information. Also, I added, I believe I added math tips. Yes, UDL math tips. Also, Katie Novak had published on her website. So if you go to novakeducation.com, Katie is actually part of our Facebook group. And we thank her all the time for the wonderful resources that she shares. We use the rubrics that she has with our school districts, really top-notch work. So if you haven't explored her resources, or maybe you want to take one of her courses, we have information in Facebook where you can actually take one of Novak Education courses free of charge through the SIP grant, and it's there, and it walks you through how to register free of charge. So it's pretty good. I did the UDL and professional learning communities. I think you did one.
I did one on inclusive practices.
Deanie did inclusive practices. They're really, yeah, they're really great. So they're free, and you can go at your own pace. So it's not like you have to report in at a certain time and finish by a certain date. And if you want to buy a unit, it's underwritten by university, I believe, on the East Coast, but also our Teachers College. Also, you can buy a unit through our Teachers College. It's like $75 a unit, so it's a great way if you can get, to advance yourself on the pace scale. So, well, I'll tell you what, it has been really fun being with my friends today, my good friends. And I said, wouldn't it be fun this time to just be together and just have informal chats about universal design for learning? We know that today may not have been the day that you could join us, but that doesn't mean you still can't connect with us. And please, skim through the recording. Questions come up, resources that you might need, or you want to refer a friend to join the Facebook group, do it. It's fine, because that's how we grow as a community. So,
Absolutely.
okay.
Good job, Fred. Thank you.
We'll see you guys. Till next time. Take care.